Welcome to episode 5 of the Tired Dad Traditions podcast. I'm Nathan Ross, your host, and today we have with me Matt. Matt, introduce yourself.
How's it going? My name's Matt. I'm from Toronto, Canada. Got 3 kids, a 16-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son, and an almost 2-year-old son.
Awesome.
I know broad spectrum, but here we are.
Now, I must say, this is the first time we've actually met and spoken. We've DM'd quite a fair bit, but you were
Yeah.
good to come on the podcast and share your insight into being a dad, insight into being a husband. So let's start at the very beginning. How old were you when you had your first kid?
So it was about, I think, 10 or 11 days after my 23rd birthday, I
Oh,
became a dad
yeah.
to my daughter. And then 4 years later, my older son came, and yeah, that's how it was for a long time. I split with their mother back in 2021.
Yeah.
Um, I'm now currently with my fiance. We're getting married in February, and we have an almost 2-year-old son. So
Awesome. Okay, let's go back to being a young dad, 23, not got your shit together, let's be real. You're winging
absolutely.
it, you're winging it as you go. What were the main key pressures? Because I know I was a young dad at 20. I had my first one at 20, so I know what's that like. What was your pressures at that time?
Um, just being a provider. My life wasn't on the straight and narrow at that time. I was into some bad shit. Let's just
Okay.
leave it at that.
Okay.
Um, and then when I found out I was becoming a dad, I kind of had to, I wasn't living for myself anymore, and I had somebody I had to provide for and
Yeah.
raise and take care of, and it wasn't about me anymore.
Yeah.
So I got a job. It was a shitty job, but it was paying the bills.
There you go. Yeah.
Um, I ended up getting canned from there for some dumb shit. Um, but it was a blessing in disguise because I got into the career I'm in now, so I'm a manager for a construction company.
Wow, that's nice, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been doing in this trade for 14 years now. So
You've worked your way up the trade.
worked my way
Um,
up. I was a guy out in the field doing the hard work. I was paid fucking pennies when I started.
yeah.
Took a lot of overtime, a lot of on-call shifts just to make ends meet for my young family. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, worked my way up, and now here I am.
Good. Okay, let's talk about before you had your child in, because obviously you talk about you've done a lot of dumb shit. What was your upbringing like in your household? Was it a traditional mom and dad? What was your bringing up like?
So my parents got divorced when I was 5.
Yeah.
Um, and my dad still is a truck driver.
Hmm.
For most of my childhood, he was like on the road, like in the States and stuff,
Yeah.
long haul. So I didn't see him, as much as I would have hoped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Growing up, it sucked. And now, as a father myself, it's like I get it from the perspective of like he's trying to provide and trying to work and whatever else. So I get it.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just basically raised by my mom and my grandma. And when my dad was home, we would go visit him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
And so
yeah, that was
at what age did you start to, you talk about, I suppose, going off the rail or going a different pathway that you'd like to expect it to? What age did that start?
that was like mid-teens. Me and my brother, we put my mom through the fucking ringer, man. We were bad boys, man. We
Yeah.
did some really dumb shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom's a G though, man. She's like, she knew the type of shit we were doing. She didn't like obviously encourage it or whatever, but she's like, just, don't call me when you get
Yeah.
locked up, or don't call me when you get in some bad shit. And we are like,
Don't bring
you
shit
know,
to my door,
don't
basically.
bring, which we did. And, it's just,
Yeah.
my
Okay.
mom, my mom's a G though, man. She's
You
yeah, we
had to
put
be.
her
I
through the ringer, man.
suppose if your dad was on the road a lot working, and then your mom and dad got divorced, so your dad wasn't around as
Mhm.
much, I suppose your mom had to raise her standards in supporting you and be the stronghold in your life.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would never say like my dad was like a totally absent father. But definitely, I mean, we spent a lot more time with our mom, and yeah, she was definitely like um she had the more influence on us, I guess you could say.
As the main carer, I suppose.
Right.
Cool, man. Cool. So then we go into then suddenly you met your girlfriend or your kid's mom at the time.
Mhm.
And you realize, shit, I need to get my shit together. I've got this little one coming away. I need to start providing. You went into a job, did that for a bit, got the sack, and then went into the job that you've got now. Yeah.
Right. And into the field that I'm in now. Yeah.
Into the field now that you're in now. So then, what was a turning point that made you think after you've had your little one, after you thought I need to get my shit together and blah blah blah? At what time did you say, well, I need? What did you do that changed? Did you become? I know you obviously got a job, but mentally and attitude wise, how did you change?
If I understand your question correctly, I mean, it was basically like the life I was leading before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was making money and, surviving and whatnot, but it wasn't what I truly wanted, So like knowing my daughter was coming was kind of like the kick in the ass to really do what I felt like I should be doing, which is like being a respectable human being. Uh, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I was a fucking degenerate, man. Like, yeah.
At
So
least you're honest. At least you're honest.
I'm honest, man. I'm not a bullshitter, bro. I keep it 100,
Yeah.
So that was just the kick in the ass to start getting on the straight and narrow and being the person that I truly felt I should be. And
Mm.
that was the turning point, man. Was literally like I say all the time, my daughter, and people say this about their kids and stuff, whether they mean it or not, but for me, I swear to God, bro, my daughter saved my life, man.
Yeah, and I think you are
My
right. A lot of us as dads, we talk about kids coming in our life and it's changed us, and it might do to a certain point. But I suppose for you, deep down, because you were on this path of self-destruction, to then suddenly she came along and turned you around. It was a big knock off one path onto another.
100%,
Yeah,
100%.
awesome, man. So then you had your son 4 years later.
Yeah. So the reason there's a big gap in the middle, considering they both have the same mother, is we had a stillborn daughter. My ex was like 7 months along, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, and she would have been like halfway between them, right? It was
Yeah,
like 2 years apart for all of them. It would have been. But yeah, so that happened, and that was yeah, 2011 was the worst fucking year of my life, man. Between that and then 2 weeks prior to the day, like my grandmother, who had a big hand in raising me, she passed away.
wow.
Um, we had like 2 weeks apart, man. So it was like, yeah, 2011 was a fucked up year. But
And
yeah,
sorry, I just want to ask you the question.
go ahead.
How did you deal with that? Because let's be real, someone close to you passing away, having a 7-month-old stillborn, how did you manage to deal with that? Or
I
did
used
it?
to make music. I used to make music. Like I used to take it fairly seriously. I used to be a rapper.
Mhm.
That was kind of my outlet. I'm not a big drinker, big partier. Like I don't do any of that stuff. So it wasn't like I went to those type of outlets or anything like that, any type of negative, crazy things.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it was mainly just my music, man, and work. I just consume myself in work, which is, I guess, a trait I got from my dad.
yeah.
So just between work and my music, that's literally what kept me
And
going.
I suppose for you, you had to be the supportive one because obviously your girlfriend at the time was going through some emotional trauma from what had happened with the baby as well. So
Sure.
you then had to level up and then support her while looking after the kid, while working, while supporting yourself. So there must have been a lot of pressure on you at the time.
There was a lot of pressure on me for sure. I mean, I probably wasn't the greatest of partners at times, I mean, yeah, so I tried my best, man. Like what are you
We
gonna
can do
do?
it. That's all we can
I
do.
was Yeah, I just tried my best and
Yeah,
tried to make everything okay for everybody. That's
yeah, yeah. And then a few years later, then your boy came along.
yeah,
And
yeah.
how was it different to you from having a daughter compared to a boy? Because I've got a daughter. I've not had a boy yet, but I've
Mhm.
always told that you're different when you have a boy compared to when you have a girl.
It is different. I'm a lot more even still to this day, I'm a lot more protective of my daughter.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if it's like, because she's a girl and this and that. It's not.
Yeah,
I'm all for equality and stuff like that, man. But I don't
yeah,
know. It's something about my little girl is like, nah, man. Like I don't
yeah,
play when it comes to her. And I give my son, I'm a lot more and was always a lot more like relaxed with him, like let him kind of do his thing. Um, you know, get a couple bumps and scrapes and this and that. You know what I mean? Like
of course, yeah,
not be so protective and so over him all the time. And
yeah.
it's totally different, man. I see myself a lot more in my son just because I was a little boy at one
Yeah,
point, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and even with my son now, it's like my younger son, I mean, I say my
yeah.
son now, my youngest son, it's like, I don't know, it's just different. Like you see yourself a lot more in them. I don't know. For me
Yeah,
anyways.
yeah. I think it's innate in us to protect our daughters, uh,
Mm,
and then with our sons, I'm told that, and just like you said, I probably can confirm it by talking to other dads that you want to let your son learn a bit more about life and learn about this, the falling over and getting back up and all
right.
that sort of thing. So I'm hearing more and more that you are more protective over your daughter, and then a lot more leeway and a lot more free with your son. So I totally get that. And
Hmm.
and so growing up then, obviously up until we spoke about 2021 when you your relationship broke down, up until that point, what do you think was the best trait that you had as a dad with a daughter, a son, and a relationship? What was the thing that you had the best trait about?
Um, I've always been a provider.
Mhm.
That, in my opinion, um, one of the top things you got to be as a parent,
Yeah,
not even just as a father, as a parent in general, is
yeah,
you gotta provide. These kids didn't ask to be here, man, so they shouldn't have to struggle, and they,
yeah, yeah, of
shouldn't have to go without things. There's a difference between necessities and wants.
course.
Um, so any type of necessity, they never went without.
Mhm.
And with my ex, like she spent a lot of we were together 13 years, and a lot of that time she stayed home with the kids and raised them, which is why um I worked so much because I wasn't making that much money, but I needed the money to,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I worked my fingers to the bone. I broke, not literally, but you break your
yeah, yeah. I
back and
can
just do
imagine.
whatever you got to do, right?
And
And
was that a choice you decided to make as a dad that I'm going to make sure my partner at the time stays at home and I'm going to work my ass off so she can be the mom she needs to be for my kids? Was that a subconscious decision or was that a conscious decision that you both spoke about?
it was conscious between the both of us.
Yeah,
She did have a job. She was working, but her job didn't really. She didn't have a career. She just had a job where she wasn't making. She was making like minimum wage or whatever, and then
yeah,
the cost of daycare and all that shit. So it's like, is it worth it for you to be working essentially just to pay for daycare
yeah, of course.
when who's better to raise your kids than one of the parents or both, obviously,
Exactly.
right? But
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm like, nah, like you can stay home. I have a union job where I have great benefits. You
Mhm.
stay home, I'll pay everything and you take care of the kids. And she was cool with that, and we agreed on it, and that's how it was for a very long time.
Where do you think this, and I think it must be a dad thing, but and I don't know if it's all dads, but where do you think this, I suppose it's this mindset, or is it a soul thing that you're willing to sacrifice just to work, 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 work as long as your family's happy? Where does that come from?
I
I don't
think
know the answer. I don't know if there's a right answer or wrong answer. I'm just wondering where you think it comes from.
I agree with you. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I would say for me, my opinion or my answer would be I think it's ingrained in us men
Mhm.
from the beginning of time. Men have always been the providers. Now I know nowadays times have changed and women are in the workforce, and the cost of living and stuff, like it's almost impossible for just the man to or one
Yeah, of
person
course.
to go to work. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Both people have to work. Um, but I think it's ingrained in our DNA, man, from
Yeah.
ancient times where men are looked at as providers and protectors, and you know, um, women typically were the more like stay at home, raise the kids kind of thing.
Mhm.
So as much as times changed, you can't take something out of somebody's
No, no.
DNA, right?
No, totally. So when 2021 happened, was you working through COVID and pandemic a lot as well?
Oh yeah, I worked. I'm technically an essential worker.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I worked through the whole thing, man.
Okay, so when the relationship broke down with your ex-partner at the time, how did that
Mm.
affect you? Did you get back, bury yourself back into work, or how did it affect you?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've always just been always a hard worker and always. I'll be honest, my breakup with her was like a long time coming.
Okay.
So it wasn't like and it was me who ended it, if I'm being honest. So it wasn't like an out of left field thing or
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
me
yeah,
out of nowhere. Nobody cheated. It wasn't like
yeah, yeah.
anything like that. It was just, after 13 years. And for most of it. Both of us, I'm not going to throw the blame on her. We're
Of
both,
course.
uh, not toxic, but it was just like, it wasn't a great relationship,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was better where, in my opinion, which is why I ended it, like, for our kids to, I would have rather them have two happy lives than one, two happy
Oh, of
homes,
course.
sorry,
Yeah,
than
yeah,
one
yeah.
home
Yeah.
where it's miserable. And
And I think
yeah,
sometimes that's the correct decision to make, isn't it? And it's obviously
yeah,
worked out for you and your ex-partner because I think sometimes we can try and push and work at things and grind things out, and it can get worse and worse, can't it? And like you said, your kids will feel the impact of that. So sometimes it's best to say, look, let's just cut it out. It fizzled out. Let's just move on. So how did you manage then to go from that into then picking yourself up, rebuilding yourself? Was you able to see the kids often? Did you have them weekends? Because I know a lot of single dads or dads that are not in relationships with their kid's mother would want to know how you fixed yourself up and how did you work it all out?
yeah, sure. So we split in like early 2021, and I spent the rest of the year basically just like, because again, I hadn't been single since I was like 22, right? So
Yeah.
this whole world was new to me. Now, I wasn't, yeah, so I didn't like okay, so we'll probably get to it after, but
Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of, I didn't like rush. I wasn't planning on rushing into a relationship or anything. That was not my concern or what I wanted. It was more like, take some time for myself, work on myself. I started trying to like work on and like lose weight,
Mhm.
get my mental health better, because it wasn't the greatest for a very long time.
Yeah.
It's still a work in progress if I'm being honest, but
I think it
I've
always
made a lot
will.
of progress. Yeah, it's so yeah, I just spent the year working on myself. I did a program called 75 Hard, if you ever
Yeah,
heard
another
of it.
one. Yeah, yeah, another one. Yep.
Yeah, so I did that, lost, like 30 pounds, something like that during the first run. Um, and yeah, and I can see my kids, like, the one thing I can say about my ex is like, she was never the type to like hold my kids use them as a weapon or keep them
Yeah,
from me. Like, she
yeah.
encourages me to see them more, if I'm being honest.
Okay, let me
I'm
ask you a
so
question. Sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Go.
want to ask you a question about that because what do you think makes obviously your ex-partner was different. She was like, yeah, man, see the kids as much as you want, blah, blah, blah. What made her be like that and not the opposite, do you think?
Um, I think it's because she just, the same as me, just wanted to make sure that they have a relationship with me. And yeah, just I don't even know how to answer that, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
she
yeah, yeah.
just,
Okay, okay.
yeah, she just wanted me to have a relationship, because I was always there for my kids and I'm always like involved in doing this, right? And so I feel like she just wanted that to continue, because imagine like she kept them from me and I couldn't be there for my kids. Like, yeah, as much as it would suck for me, it would suck probably worse, or as bad for my kids, because their dad is just gone like that. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
let me ask you the question a different way. What advice would you give to someone that was going through a breakup at the moment, and the communication wasn't good with their ex-partner and the relationship with the children was breaking down? What advice would you give to someone?
My advice would be, you and your ex are done. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Put your feelings aside, whatever you have. If you're angry, if you're mad, if you're upset, if you're sad,
Mhm.
do that shit on your own time and just focus on the kids. Do whatever you got to do for your kids. Like, they're the most important in that situation.
And I'm not going to go down this route, but I've always, most dads I speak to, we would, if the kids were in our care fully, we wouldn't do what some women do sometimes, and which is hold the kids back. I feel like we'd be totally the opposite. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why dads find it so hard to understand why sometimes women do it. And no one understands what goes on in relationships. No one understands why people do things. But I think because as dads, we probably wouldn't do what most, well, 50% of women do, which is hold the kids, use the kids, and all that sort of thing. We find it hard then as a dad to understand why that happens, don't we?
No, for sure. And I mean, typically in a breakup, the kids usually end up with the mother anyways. That's how kind of it's been for a long time, unless she's a fucking degenerate and the father, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
there's certain
yeah,
circumstances where, but I feel personally like courts will favor the mother in
of course.
situations like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Luckily, we didn't have to go to court. We were pretty amicable. We came to agreements on like child support and
yeah.
visitation, all that stuff on our own. So
Cool, man. Cool. So we started working on ourselves after the breakup. We started focusing on our mental health. We did a thing called 75 Hard. We started looking
Mhm.
after our welfare, our well-being, and all that, and our body. And then, so obviously, you started to feel a bit more confident, started feeling a bit more happy about yourself. So then, what happened then?
So, and this is when I said earlier that we'll probably get to it. So later in 2021, like December-ish, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm, whatever. I worked on myself. I'm feeling good. I'm happy, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I want to try and get back out there and like maybe meet somebody, right?
Yep.
So, times have changed. There's dating apps now and shit. And
Yeah.
what I was gonna say earlier, which still makes me laugh, is like up until that point, I had never used a dating app. Dating
I've
apps
never
never
used
even
one.
existed when I got in my last relationship.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there was no such thing as Tinder or
Yeah,
all this
yeah,
shit.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So it was fucking foreign to me, bro. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm gonna set up a profile and this and that. So I got onto like, Tinder and I think it was
Yeah,
Bumble. Like two of them, Tinder for sure and some other one.
yeah,
And I'm scrolling through doing what you do, and I'm like, whatever. I'm like, he's kind of fucking whack, man. I'm there's nothing really that I see that I was interested in and
of
whatever.
course.
And so I was on it for a bit. I didn't even like, yeah, I matched with a couple women and like talked to them, and it kind of just would fizzle out or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
truthfully, I didn't even meet anybody from dating app at that
yeah,
point. So then time went on, whatever. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna get rid of it and shit. And then my buddy, he hits me up and we were talking, whatever, and he's like, yo, if you're trying to look for something serious, like not just some bullshit, he's like, try Facebook dating. I'm like, Facebook has dating? What the
no
fuck?
way. I didn't even know that
Yeah, I didn't even know, bro. So so
either.
he's like, try Facebook dating. I'm like, all right, guys, I'm the kind of guy like I'm not into like this fucking hookup culture
Yeah, of
fuck
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
shit and
Yeah,
like one night stands and all that. Like,
yeah.
I'm not into that shit, man. I'm a grown man. Like,
It's funny
so
though. It's funny. Sorry, I just want to interrupt. It's funny though because
yeah.
a lot of women expect men to end a relationship and just jump into bed with a woman straight away, don't they? Or go and
Yeah.
or go and fuck someone real quick and get out their system and the angles
Yeah.
and all this sort of thing. When more and more men I speak to, we're like, no, we're not like that. You know what I mean? We're not like that
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, no, I was not like that at all. I mean, I had my priorities straight. I'm not one of these guys like, oh, you hear the saying like to get over somebody, get under somebody. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
nah,
yeah.
not for me. That's
No,
just not for me.
no.
Yeah. So he's like, go to the Facebook dating, and I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'll try it. Why not? Facebook is weird, but
Yeah,
so I go on. I'm on there, whatever. I'm scrolling through, and I see this woman, and I'm like, she just fucking wowed me. I'm like, and afterwards I messaged her and whatever, but I told her, I'm like, you wowed me, and like I was not wowed at all. She was
yeah,
like my type, everything about her. And keep in mind, it's pictures, so I can only
of
see her
course.
pictures and whatever
Yeah,
little blurb she wrote, right?
yeah, yeah,
Just from her pictures, I'm like, she is 100% my type. Darker skin,
yeah.
nice hair, beautiful eyes, everything, nice smile.
You look at your
So I'm like,
face is all
yo,
lighted up now, man. Your face is all lighted.
yeah, bro, I was hyped, man. I was hyped. So I'm like, okay. So
Yeah,
I messaged her. I shot my shot. Um, I sent her a joke. I don't remember what I said to her, but I said a joke of some sort.
yeah,
And she liked it and she messaged me back and we started connecting and talking and it started snowballing from there, hours long conversations and this and that. Turns out, I know you're from England, so you're probably not going to get like the whole reference, but Toronto is a fucking huge city.
hmm,
So right next to Toronto is a city called Mississauga, another huge city, okay?
yeah, yeah.
I was living in Mississauga. She was living in Toronto. Now, if I had lived on the farthest part of Mississauga and she lived on the farthest part of Toronto, like opposite ends,
Yep,
it would take us an hour and a half to get to each other in a drive. That's how
yep,
far it is. Okay.
yep.
Now, it turns out I lived on the border of Mississauga and Toronto, and she lived on the border of Mississauga. We were a five
Oh,
minute drive from each other. Okay.
no
That's
way.
the craziest thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So um, yeah, so we started talking, whatever, we met up and things progressed and everything went well. And now I'm marrying her in February, man, and we
Oh,
have a son
that's
together.
cool. I like that, man. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Let me ask you a question about. Okay, so you've.
So yo, hold on. Shout out to Wasim and Facebook dating, bro.
And if you're a single dad, we don't promote Facebook dating, but try it because it works.
Yeah, it works, man. It
I don't
works.
even, I thought you were gonna poker like we did 20 years ago on Facebook when you poke
The
people.
poking, yeah.
Okay, let's think about the dad you are now compared to the dad you were, I don't know, 13 years ago. Give me five different, or give me a few differences that you are now than you are with your little one growing up compared to what you were before.
I'm definitely more involved.
Yeah.
Um, I'll be honest, my ex, she didn't really put pressure on me to kind of do a lot of things for my kids, which is something I kind of regret because it's certain things I maybe missed out on a little bit.
Yep.
Whereas my fiance, she's one of those moms where she's like, nah, this is not all me. Like we're doing this shit together, and
Yeah.
which I'm
Yeah.
grateful for. I'm grateful for it, and I enjoy it. I'm
Yeah.
exhausted at the end of the day, but I enjoy
Yeah.
it, you know. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so I'm definitely more involved. I'm more patient. I think that came with like maturity and
Totally.
being a lot more old, like a lot older now
Yeah.
versus back then. I'm more financially stable, so I'm able to give my younger son now maybe things that I wasn't able to give my other kids because I didn't have as much money. And I find myself a lot of the times trying to make up for it. Like anytime, I swear to God, bro, no joke. My daughter, every single day, she'll hit me up for money. Can I have $5 for Tim Hortons and this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as much as I tell her, like, you gotta stop asking me for so much money all the time,
I
but
still
here's your
do
$5.
it.
Yeah, I do it anyways. You
I
know,
do.
so
I do
you know,
think
she,
maybe is that because of maybe a bit of guilt? Do you think, or is that because
yeah,
yeah,
it's for sure partly guilt.
yeah,
Like I said, and even my fiance, she'll tell me like, yeah, times were different for you. You didn't have. I'm not saying I'm rich, but I'm doing okay
yeah, yeah,
compared to
yeah,
back then, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, so it's like I'm a lot. And my son is only 2, so it's not like we haven't really done anything crazy
of
for him
course.
yet, like
Yeah,
put him
yeah,
into anything.
yeah,
But like, it's just, yeah, it's just times are different financially. And yeah, for sure, it's a little bit of guilt. It's
yeah.
also because I have the means to do it, so I'll
Course.
do it,
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think also maybe your priorities have changed a lot more compared to back then. Well, and what I mean by that is you're a different man, it sounds, compared to where you were now compared to the guy you was back then. So then being a different man, you see things differently, your values have probably changed, that your standards have changed. So then you prioritize things a lot more differently. So spending time with your son it's
mm.
probably a must now more so than it was before, where you just wanted to create money, make money to make sure your family could be the way it needs to be. So I think maybe your priorities have changed, your values have changed, and also with age comes a lot more wisdom, doesn't it? So then
For
with
sure.
that wisdom becomes a lot more understanding, emotional intelligence comes a lot more with it. So you totally seem to be the different man than you were back then.
Oh, trust me, anybody who knows me for more than 20, like I don't have very many friends, but the friends I do have, they're like my brothers, and we've been friends for 20 plus years. And
Mhm.
they know it, they see it. They're like, you're a different dude, and for the better.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. Everything you were saying, I never really thought about it, like the way your priorities change and everything else. Like I said, I have a very small group of friends, and we all, mid to late 30s, have kids, have wives, have jobs, careers.
yeah.
So we don't chill as much, which is sad, but everybody grows up. But I say that to say, like, I don't really have much of a social life, man. I'll be honest. Like
Of
I'm
course. I
either
don't think many of
working.
us dads do. Many of us dads do we?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like my life consists of going to work, going to the gym, and I'm with my kids and my fiance, man. That's literally my life.
And if that,
Um,
as long as you're happy, that's the main thing.
and I was just about to say, I'm super happy with that. I'm super grateful. Like, bro, realistically, I worked fucking hard for everything I have, man, and I'm super grateful. I've come a long way in my life from where I started versus where I am today. And it's like
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying the fruits of my labor, man. And I still I
Perfect, man.
still got I still got a lot to climb, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
fucking get there, bro. So
That's it, man. And we never stop climbing, do we, as dads? We never stop.
never, man.
So,
Never.
okay, let's end it up and wrap it up with one piece of advice you would give to a dad in today's society. Because I feel like I've spoken to a lot of dads now, and a lot of dads they feel the stress, they feel the pressures, they feel that we have to keep turning up, which is true. We do, like you've just said, we have to keep turning up, doing what we need to do, climbing the mountains, stuff like that. But what one piece of advice would you offer to dads?
Um, I would say be as involved with your kids as you can. You'll never get the time back. It's not your wife's or your partner's sole responsibility. Be there for them, be there for your kids, be a man, be a father, and just, yeah, just do what you got to do to give those kids the best life they can have.
It's really, really funny, man, because the way your journey has gone is it's like a blueprint of mine. Like I had my
Mm.
little one at 21. Me and her mother split up, and then I've just worked, sacrificed time with my kids. I missed 4 years of my child growing up, and only now, like you are now, like the last, I suppose, since the pandemic, really enjoying and appreciating time that you have with your family. And I think one of the biggest factors that most dads, even though we want to grind, we want to provide for our family, we want the money, we forget that they're only here for they're only kids for a small amount of their time. And so we really got to understand that and acknowledge it and appreciate it, haven't we?
You're 100% right, man. Like money, but now my mindset is like money comes and goes. I'm always going to be able
True.
to make money.
Very true.
Um, and I see my daughter now, she's 16, and like just the other day she hit me up. She's like, because in Canada, you can get your like learner's permit driving, it called G1,
Yeah, yeah,
for your driver's license when you're 16. So
yeah.
just the other day, a couple weeks ago, whatever, she hit me up. She's like, "Can you take me to get my G1?" And it took me back for a second. I'm like, holy shit, you can get your license. I didn't even clue in. I'm like, you can fucking drive. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
What
it's
the
shit
hell,
like
man?
that. Yeah, and like, yeah, I'm just thinking about, because when I look at her, even though she's 16 and she's grown and she's like, I still look at her like she's a little kid playing
Hey,
with dolls and all
true,
that
man.
shit.
Yeah. I always
So
say
it's like,
it's you always say to my little daughter, "You're still my little baby, man. You're still my little baby. Okay, if
yeah,
you're 20, 30, you're still gonna be my little baby, man." And I totally resonate with you saying like about how you treat your daughter different to your son, because they're always going to be needing your protection as a dad, as a daughter, aren't they? I really feel that. So
for sure. And like, you gotta, the way society is for men, it's like you gotta be, with my sons, it's going to be more of like, I love my kids equally, but with my sons, it's going to be more of like a tough love.
yes,
I
yeah,
feel like that's how I
yeah,
am with them, where I'm a little bit more gentler with my daughter, for lack of a better term, in terms of discipline and like, um, yeah, because the world is a mean place. I mean, I can only speak from a man's perspective because that's what I am. For men, it's like the world will fucking beat you down, man. And it's like, you got to be tough, you got to know how to roll with the punches. You got to know how to like give some punches. And I don't, literally and figuratively, like
yeah, of course,
you
man, of
got to
course.
be able to protect yourself and defend yourself and stand up for yourself and not be perceived or be looked at as you're weak and soft. Like, at the same time, I tell my boys, like, I mean, my younger son, he's too young to really get it, but it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be, soft-hearted and stuff. But at the same time, when it calls for it, you gotta be a hard motherfucker,
Yeah,
because the world will
life
kick your
will,
ass,
yeah.
man.
I feel like with our daughters we need to teach them emotional resilience, and with our sons we need to teach them physical resilience. Do you know what I mean? Because life,
Yeah,
like you say, life will beat anyone down if you let it. Do you know what I mean?
for
So,
sure.
Matt, mate, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your you open up about your life as a dad. And I know a lot of dads are gonna get a lot from this podcast because they're gonna resonate. I was hooked to just listen to your story, man. So I appreciate
Yeah.
your time, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to it. Like when I
Thanks
saw
so
your
much.
thing, like looking for dads, I'm like, this is right up my alley. Like I told you, I used to make music, so I like the
Yeah.
whole interview type shit because I did a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
those in my
Well,
day. So
I feel like we've got a lot more to cover. So I'm gonna
well, we
definitely.
we could talk for hours,
Yeah,
bro. But
exactly.
yeah, I know
So
you
I'm
probably
gonna
got
get you
shit to
back on,
do.
man.
So
I wanna get you back on because I feel there's so
I'm
many
down.
questions in my head, man, to ask you more about.
Yeah,
That I want to explore a bit more because I think it's so. I appreciate your time. And guys,
anytime, brother.
if you're listening to this, thank you for listening to Matt and his journey. Please subscribe to my YouTube, subscribe to my podcast on Spotify, share it with other dads, share it on Instagram, Tired Dad Stories, blah, blah, blah. Drop me a review. Thanks for tuning in. And dads, remember, keep leveling up in your faith, family, and freedom. Matt, I'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank
Take
you.
care, man. See you soon.